meeting. Today's date is August 15th, 2024. And I'm not on. Am I live now? Whoa.
Hot mic.
If you'll join me as we open up this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
liberty, justice for all. All right. Pursuant to the provisions of Section 2.68.030 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws, notice is hereby given that if you are not satisfied with a decision by the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of certiorari with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Metropolitan Transportation Licensing Commission's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. As is our tradition, we will now have a public comment period, and each speaker will be limited to 2 minutes so that we can give everybody a fair chance to be able to speak and also be able to get on with the business of our meeting today. I will remind the people who want to speak that your comments today should be addressed about an item that is on the agenda today. So when you come up, please state your name, tell us what you want to talk about, and you'll see the clock over there to your left, and I'm going to hold you to the 2 minutes. So the first person I have on here, it looks like it's a Cream Afansa? Assam, okay. I apologize. It is Hassan, okay. Yes, sir. If you see the green light, it's working.
No.
Yep, I hear you now.
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Hassan. I'm here on behalf of Checkered Cap in Music City. I get it, whatever is on the agenda, we have to talk about it, but at the same time, it's our issues, it's just not that, it's behind that a lot about the non-legal cap. We hear about the review, the collection to fare. That fare, which is set up by TLC, and the meter has to be sealed every year. And our drivers, we have to do process, 3-4 different process to do the set the meter, to get the meters set by name Mike and approved by TLC. And every our drivers is getting 3 different places to get the set the meter. Mike, which is he set the meter, and then second go to mechanic, make sure that car has been inspected, everything to be proper, right? And then third signature will come to us. Do we have to check the cars, make sure that decal, the paint, the windshields, the doors, the air condition, and all that to be open? Do we make sure get the renew stickers, which is this is we get them from TLC. And if they don't have this sticker in downtown, our drivers get them parking ticket, is get them pull over. And our drivers is run away from our business right now. It's not because of not legal cap. I mean, all that, even if we increase the meter right now, it's not gonna help us any good. It's gonna affect us, it's gonna make our business go away from us. So even we, the fees from TLC, you guys prove it to 75 and 45. It still is not gonna do any good to us, which is our drivers, the number, if not legal cap right now is downtown, it's growing. And the number of complaints is getting too much right now on us. So what I'm asking is, and I appreciate if you guys and help us, TLC and Metro, to do something for us in downtown with this non-legal cap to be down instead of increasing. Our drivers and our company, which is.
Mr. Hassan, I'm gonna need you to wrap it up in 2 minutes,
And I'm
or less
sorry.
than 2 minutes.
And our drivers, and the point right now, they don't wanna work with us anymore. They wanna remove the decal and the numbers to work in downtown, not to be legal. Because we got a lot of requirement, we follow up. And our drivers actually is tired of us because they have no requirement in downtown. They make more money.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you for your opportunity.
You're welcome. And
Appreciate
we do have on the agenda a review about data that has been collected regarding taxi cab fares. And Mr. Schlafly is going to be addressing that later. Okay. The next person on the agenda that we'd like to share some comments is Shelley Williams. Hi.
How are you? And I apologize, I left my glasses in the car.
I think you're going to need to pull that microphone a little closer to you.
Left my glasses in the car, I do apologize. I'm Shelley Williams, Operations of Nash Vegas Cab Corporation. Due to the ever-rising inflation and the increasing competition from the unlicensed cab, both drivers and companies are facing significant challenges. Now is the right time to consider raising the taxi fares to better support our drivers and their families, as well as to help our companies manage the increased quarterly and annual fees that have been imposed on us. I do apologize, I'm so sorry. I strongly urge you to take action to control and regulate the alarming number of unlicensed taxis operating downtown and at the airport. Law-abiding taxi companies who follow your rules, pay the required fees, and work hard to provide reliable services deserve fair treatment and protection. It's crucial that we establish structure and justice for both tourists and residents of Nashville by addressing this issue. It will take a combined effort from the taxi companies, this commission, the MNPD, and NDOT to restore order and enforce the laws in Nashville. Thank you, and I hope you do increase the taxi meter fares.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Williams. And I completely agree with you. It's going to require a combined effort with the taxi cab companies as well. All right, next person on is Jeanette Barker.
Another small person. Good afternoon. My name's Jeanette Barker. I am with the Nashville Downtown Partnership, and I just wanted to reiterate a couple of the sentiments and points that
Which topic are you addressing?
on Rule 702 and pedal carriages
Okay.
requests. So on behalf of downtown stakeholders, Nashville Downtown Partnership urges this commission to deny today's requests for additional pedal vehicles. We've seen compelling data to show that we're well beyond a tipping point for a balanced use of the right-of-way. Since this commission began regulating ETVs 3 years ago, downtown has seen shrinking right-of-way, and the Connect Downtown Traffic Studies findings show that many solutions are needed to better move people in, out, through, and around downtown. This year, we actually added a question to our annual survey of downtown residents and workers and found that 77% of residents and 64% of workers are negatively impacted by ETV-related congestion, and that 76% and 53% respectively are negatively impacted by ETV noise. We hope this is helpful and urge you to consider even more data, such as a monthly report of citations and complaints, which we understand NDOT may now be providing. We also ask that you make no change to the rule in Section 702 regarding rush hour operations. It is up to city leaders and a combined effort to understand and adapt to change, with rules and regulations to foster a suitable environment for those who live, work, and yes, even play downtown. Scottsdale, Arizona did this after many party buses and the like flooded their market. This actually included one operator from Nashville. It seems that the city was able to maintain balance through rules, regulations, and most importantly, through enforcement, with zero tolerance for their bad behavior. I mentioned this in case anyone is interested in looking at that city as a model. And I thank you for your attention to this very complex matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barker. Ms. LeClaire, you walked in just at the right moment. You're next up on the list. They do say timing's everything.
It is, isn't it? Commissioner McNally, I have a new hip as well as you.
Hey, easy. But that's,
Slows me down in the security lines these days. Welcome to the group. Club.
you're giving away my age.
I'm not telling anything.
Uh-huh.
Good afternoon, commissioners. Thank you for giving me a minute, and I'm glad I got here just in time. My message is pretty, Lisa LeClaire, I'm with the Greater Nashville Hospitality
topic are you
Association.
addressing?
I don't have the number in front of me. It's in my folder.
What's the subject?
The issuance of additional permits.
Thanks.
And I just, as always, want you to keep in mind that the Connect study suggests that we don't need more permits. I think that we would all agree that we have lots of permits already. We need the systems that we have put in place from a behavior and rules standpoint to take hold and get a better handle on our traffic and safety in the city, and that should always be our focus when making these decisions. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. And then Michael Martin is our last speaker.
My name is Michael Martin. I'm with Martin's Record Service. I'm here about the rate increase we have on the agenda today. I just wanted to provide a few numbers for you. The last time we had a rate increase, I provided some numbers about the increase in the equipment. That's what I'm gonna do again today. Is January of 22, I paid $98,000 for a new rollback. October of 23, same rollback, $131,000. That's just an example of the increase in price for us to do business. Of course, we want new equipment and nice equipment for the city. We don't want people breaking down when they're broke down in the tow truck. So we try to provide newer equipment for them, rotate every couple of years. Also, the new law on the rate increase, or on the way we have to send the certified letters, is a big increase for us as far as price. Some of them are gonna be upwards of $180 per letter. That's an increase from $10 per letter. So I really hope today we can come to some kind of agreement on something that could be done about that, because that is gonna be a huge factor in people being able to do business and, just, everything that's involved with it. Not only those two things, there's several other samples I could give you. If you want to speak more later, just let me know. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, Mr. Martin, you're going to stick around to when we get to that topic, aren't you?
Yes, sir, I'll be
Because
here.
I have questions, and I'm going to go ahead and prepare you.
Yes, sir.
I want you to think about this. Why is it costing, don't answer now, but just why is it costing so much more to send a certified letter now to the lien holder? Okay?
No problem. I got that.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the public comment period. Has the commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes from the previous meeting that was sent in our package? All right, is there a motion to approve the minutes, or is there any revisions, additions, or changes that someone sees as necessary? Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting has passed. Mr. Rooker, next on our agenda is disciplinary hearings. I think you have an announcement on those. There's 3 of them listed here.
Yes, Mr. Chair. The first one against Old Town Trolley has been asked to be deferred to September by Metro Legal. If they want to speak to that, they can, but they just asked for it to be deferred.
Yes, Old Town Trolley has presented a settlement proposal just this week, and so we needed time to consider the proposal. And so we're asking for a deferral on that complaint. And Old Town Trolley is consented to it as well.
And that proposal will come to us before it's ever approved or adopted or anything of that nature, right?
Correct.
Okay. And would you introduce the new Metro Legal representative?
I sure will, with pleasure. This is Belinda Ramsey. She is our new Teresa Costonis. And I'll let her tell you all about herself, but.
Hello, my name is Flinda Ramsey. I am replacing Terry Costonis just in this role. I can never actually replace Terry. So have mercy on us because we are stepping into this role without Terry. But I'm excited to be here. And if you have anything, feel free to let us know.
Thank you. Okay. I'm going to ask Ms. Harper. I'm going to be bringing most of my questions directly to you. Do we need to make a motion to defer it, or can it just be deferred on its own?
Yes, please make a motion to defer.
All right, so let's take these one at a time, okay, Mr. Rooker?
Yes, sir.
All right. There's a,
Chair, excuse me, I'm sorry. The other two motions,
the other two disciplinary matters?
yes, I'm
Okay.
sorry. The other two disciplinary matters, I believe Mr. Rooker was going to ask to defer. We're just only talking about the Grant Rosenblatt complaint against Old Town Trolley operations. There's been no settlement proposal for the other two.
All
I
right.
just want to make that clear.
Thank you. Why don't we just take the first one, which is Mr. Rosenblatt, you're here? Okay. And this has been explained to you about the reasons for the proposed deferral?
I'm just learning about it now.
Okay. All right. Does any of the commissioners have any questions, comments, or discussion about it? Mr. Hayes, you look like you were about to.
No, I was curious, do they have to be here for us to hear it and for us to rule? Old Town,
On the motion?
No, on the complaint.
No, but I don't think they have to be here, but it's best practice, I'd say.
Yeah, it'd be best practice. It's too bad they, I so look forward to hearing what they, what their settlement looks like.
By there, you mean Old Town Trolley? Okay.
Yeah.
And Ms. Harper, I would strongly encourage, since this complaint was filed by Mr. Rosenblatt, that he be brought into the discussions as well.
I did speak with Grant. I did not necessarily, I told him Metro Legal was asking for a deferral. I did not tell him anything about the settlement offer. I did not know if that was appropriate.
So I would agree with Commissioner Hayes. I think all parties ought to be present when Metro Legal and Old Town Trolley bring a proposal to us so that Mr. Rosenblatt can be heard, and Mr. Hayes, Commissioner Hayes was going to have some questions, I think, as well, so.
Absolutely, that's our plan. We would have you review and approve any settlement at hopefully the next meeting.
But going directly to Commissioner Hayes's inquiry about whether the parties ought to be present, I would concur that Old Town Trolley and Mr. Rosenblatt be present when the proposal is presented to the commission. Okay.
Sure, that's no problem.
Do other commissioners have questions or thoughts or discussion?
I don't have a question per se. I just note that we're like 5 months into this, and I think that working on a settlement's a good idea, but I just think we need to put a pin in the fact that it's taken a long time to address this complaint. That's all.
Well, given the moment of silence, is there a motion on the matter?
I move we defer.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And Ms. Harper, you look like you had something.
No, I did not have anything to say.
Okay, all right. The next one on the agenda is the Michael Winters complaint. Mr. Rooker, can you enlighten us on?
Yes, sir.
that?
Mr. Winters called me this morning and had a family matter that he had to take care of today. He communicated with me this morning and asked that it be continued until September's meeting.
And Commissioner Westlake's already pointed out that it has been 5 months. I'm not going to do the math, I'll trust hers on that. This has been deferred since April 2024. I'd say that we ought to put a drop dead decision needs to be made in September.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Is there a motion to defer Mr. Winter's complaint set forth about Metro Code 2.10?
I'll make a motion that we defer till September, but no longer than that.
That's a motion with a condition. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Number 3 on here, review emergency suspension of taxi cab Yusuf Sahata, Michael, and it was deferred from June of 2024. Mr. Rooker?
His attorney contacted us at the first of the week and said that he would be out of town today, taking his daughter to college. So he requested that it be continued until September.
For the record, who is the attorney?
Paul Wallen.
Okay. Is there a motion regarding the deferral of the emergency suspension?
Question,
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman.
absolutely.
Is his license currently suspended during this?
Yes, ma'am, it
continued
is.
time? Okay.
I suspended it, but temporarily until the commission can make a final
So
decision.
he's not operating?
He's
in
not
the
supposed to be
meantime?
operating,
Okay.
that is correct.
Thank you.
And the magical words there are not supposed to be operating.
Hopefully not. I make the motion to defer to September's meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Got 3 of them, all right. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I do have one question. Who keeps notes of the meeting? Okay. Ms. Sheffley, when more than one person has seconded a motion, how do you designate for the minutes who made the second?
Whichever one I hear first.
Okay.
Mr. Rogers is in my ear, so he got the second on that one.
Does any of the commissioners have any concerns or complaint about that process that is being used to determine the second? All right, wonderful. All right. Mr. Rooker, next on our agenda is the consent items, other passenger vehicles for hire.
Yes,
New
sir.
company applications.
Yes, sir. We have 4 new companies that have applied for their OPVH permits. Their paperwork is in order. They've done everything they're supposed to do. It's coming before you now for a vote, and we will, staff recommends that they be approved. We will let y'all read the names of the companies into the motion.
And I know we have elaborated on what OPVH are and how many vehicles, generally speaking, when we're issuing new permits. Does any of the new commissioners or senior commissioners have any questions about this matter? Mr. Rogers?
No, I was just saying the older members might forget.
Oh, okay. All right. Is there any discussion about the consent item about the OPVH? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve new company applications for TAN Assets LLC, Missouri, Zima Limo Service, and Tesla Transport LLC.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I wonder if Tesla Transport's gonna run into a copyright issue, but it's not my problem. All right, next on the agenda, Mr. Rooker, is the pedal vehicle request to modify. Oh, I do have a question. Is Tesla Transport just using Teslas?
We don't know, but I would assume so. That's what I would think. Yes, they are. Yes, okay. Staff says yes, they
Oh,
are.
okay, all right. All right, next on the agenda is the pedal vehicle request to modify ownership by Nashville Bar Bike LLC.
Yes, Mr. Chair, anytime a company comes to our office to modify a partnership, and they're changing anything on the original application, it has to come before this commission for approval. They have completed all their paperwork, everything's fine, and staff would recommend approval.
Any discussion, questions? Is there a motion to approve Nashville Bar Bike LLC to add Margaret Rose Allison as a partner?
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. All right, moving on, Mr. Rooker, to the second page of the agenda. Again, there's a request to modify ownership by two more companies. Maybe we'll take them one at a time, okay?
Yes, sir. Same as the pedal vehicle before. They're just asking to change something that's on their original application by adding a partner, a new partner. All their paperwork is in order, and staff recommends approval.
All right, and again, these are not adding any additional vehicles or congestion to traffic. It's
No,
just
sir. They're
changing-
just
adding a
changing the name,
partner.
adding a partner to the company. Yes, sir.
Any questions or discussion from the commission? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the request to modify ownership for Hodder's Limo to add a partner.
I think we can go ahead and do both.
Could you
of them
both?
if want.
And I will add Royal Limousine LLC to that motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, moving on to pedal vehicles. We now have, Mr. Rooker, why don't you introduce us to that, and I'll open up the public hearing.
Yes, sir. This, we met with the pedal carriage companies a few weeks ago. We had a very productive, good meeting, basically to go over rules, regulations, make sure we're on the same page with them and that they understand what we're expecting of them. It was a very productive meeting, good meeting. They have asked us to put before you today that they also be able to be allowed to operate between 4 and 6 on approved routes by me and by NDOT Engineering, similar to what the ETVs are doing. So this is why we're having a public hearing on this. Staff recommends that we approve this. It's on approved routes that we're going to approve with engineering. So we think we can, basically keep them off the really congested roads and really congested ways, but also give them an opportunity to operate between those hours.
Okay, I am now going to open up the public hearing for consideration of the TLC Rules and Procedures, Section 702. We have already heard somewhat from Ms. Barker and Ms. Leclerc about their thoughts on that. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to the commission about this, about Section 702? All right, Mr. Rooker, what I understand is that this would put on parity the pedal vehicles with the ETVs.
Yes, sir. It would be the same rule. It would be drawing the same rule based upon the ETV rule that you changed a few meetings ago.
And no one travels between 4 and 6 unless it's approved by you and then subsequently approved by NDOT Engineering.
That is correct. As of right now, they cannot operate between 4 and 6. And the rule will be you cannot operate between 4 and 6 unless you've had a route approved by myself and then NDOT engineers.
Why do you think NDOT and the director of the Transportation Licensing Commission recommend approval of this?
I think it's just basically keeping everybody on the same playing field, and we're allowing the ETVs to do it. So, giving them the opportunity to have the same opportunity as another company. They are similar, they are different. We're not adding vehicles to the road, and we're going to keep them on specific routes if this is approved. So it's just to keep everything, kind of keep the rules in play the same.
How did NDOT create the routes, and can you talk through that process?
NDOT doesn't create the route. The company or the pedal, I'm sure the pedal companies or the ETV companies submit routes to us. We look at the route, engineering goes through and looks at it as to, they even go as far as to look at turn radiuses and things of that nature so that they know whatever route's proposed, that they're okay to be on that route in that congested time of the day. Once a route is approved, they're good for any company. So it's not specific to this is my route, nobody else can use it. So if an ET route, I think we have 3 or 4 routes that are approved. Any ETV company can use those routes between 4 and 6. So this would be similar. It wouldn't be similar, it'd be the exact same is what we would do. So we will, if they submit a route, we would look at the route, make sure it wasn't in a congested area. I would never expect us to approve a route that involves Broadway between 4 and 6. It would be streets that are less used, areas that are less used, and just giving them the same opportunity between 4 and 6.
How many companies and vehicles are we talking about?
We are, TD, we are talking about, he's gonna put it up on the,
There are 4 pedal carriage companies operating 26 pedal carriage permits currently.
Is pedal carriage like a pedal tavern? I always get my,
that's,
Although Pedal Tavern would tell you that that is their name.
That is their name, so-
Pedal carriage is the correct terminology.
yes.
got it.
I didn't hear you close the public hearing. Would I be able to ask a question?
Yes. I have not closed the public hearing. But no one spoke up, so we went on to our discussions with Mr. Rooker, who is very familiar with this issue. Who do you want to direct your questions to?
I think I'm directing to Metro Legal question, because if you can confirm the equivalent rule that was recently passed and changed for the party buses, the ETs. I don't remember the rule number, I think it was 803 maybe. But I do believe that it had language in there that said specifically in that rule during rush hour that said as in an approved route and as long as they're maintaining speed with the flow of traffic. And my question is there any debate or questioning that the pedal carriages cannot maintain that flow of traffic? Because I do think that would be an important distinguishing point to consider.
They've admitted that they can't. I mean, that's 100% correct. They can't go
Right.
up a hill. That was one of the route issues that
Right.
with the pedal cavern company that has a place on Demumbrian, and she can't get up the hill.
Right.
And
Well,
so if
at
we're
all.
creating equality, they're not actually equal in that party buses could debatably keep up with the flow of traffic during rush hour and pedal carriages
Well,
could not.
and to answer part of your question is a pedal carriage would not be allowed on a route that a party bus is on now, or an ATV is on. It would be a route specific to the pedal carriage itself. So, like, for them to go on a ETV route now, we would not approve that. I don't know if that helps.
I understand that, but I don't think that weighs in to the fact that you've explicitly given ETVs, I think if it's pulled up, if we can confirm I'm correct, I hope I'm not lying, or misremembering.
Misstatement, not lying.
Misstatements. That an important part of that was that as long as they're able to maintain the flow of traffic and keep up with that speed, and so are we going to allow a class of vehicles to operate during the worst time to travel? And even though it's slow, it probably is, the speed of traffic probably is faster than they can go, and that's just going to exacerbate the kind of the rush hour traffic. So that's my question to pose for the commission to deliberate.
Why don't we put on the record exactly what the language is that you're referring to, Ms. Barker? And I think that is, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it where entertainment transportation vehicle must travel in a manner consistent with the flow of traffic?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's what I was thinking. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me ask Director Rooker. I'm sorry, you want to go first, or?
I have a question, but
Yeah. Well, are you going to be taken in consideration when approving or not approving routes, the slower rate of speed for the pedal taverns?
Yes, sir. We would not, like I say, we would not approve a pedal carriage route that would affect the flow of downtown traffic. It would be on roads that were, very, very seldom used, if used at all during that period of time. So to envision it being the same as a ETV, that's not what we're even discussing. I think Mr. Slafer can show you the map that we're talking about. I think he can pull that up. This is the map that they can only operate under anyway. So this is, you know, we're not putting them out, we wouldn't be putting them out in congested areas, we wouldn't be putting them out by the interstate, we wouldn't be putting them out towards those areas. So this is the area by which they can operate now. So if this is, say, if they wanted to go down in that bottom left, kind of left-hand corner and pick out a few streets there that were less congested or something of that nature, I mean, we might take a look at doing that. But it will be routes that engineering basically is going to look at, and they're going to be able to look at cameras, they're going to be able to look at traffic flow, they're going to be able to do all of these things. And they're not going to allow them in areas that would, you know, congest traffic even more in the downtown core.
Can you go back to that map?
Sure.
I was just asking him to zoom it in a little bit, so.
This is the map as it exists today. This is the areas that this is the only area that they can operate in as we speak.
I would disagree that there's a single street in there at 4 o'clock that doesn't have some sort of traffic impact.
And there may not be. So if engineering sees it as being a congested problem, if the NDOT engineer sees it as being adding to a congestion problem, then they would not approve the route.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question, newbie question. As a resident of Nashville who drives downtown between 4 and 6, I've always wondered, why can't the pedal carriages go on routes where there is a turn lane in the middle of the street? And sort of, you know, in other cities that have bike lanes and car lanes and, you know, different lanes for different speeds of vehicles, is there a way to accommodate the speed that they're going without impacting the flow of traffic on the normal through lanes? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. It's a difficult question to answer because, you know, if you just say put them in turning lanes or put them in, we don't want them in bike lanes for sure. That's just gonna congest something else, I think, you know. So we will look at an area that maybe they can operate in, but if they're on a public right of way, it's gonna affect traffic, whether they're in a turn lane or whether they're in the middle of the street.
To your point on the bike lanes, the Demonbreun bike lane is heavily used by the operator who has a location on Demonbreun. You just said you don't want them in the bike lanes?
No.
That's exclusively where they are driving up and down Demonbreun, at least in my experience.
We do not want them operating in a bike lane. They need to operate on the street. That's what they're designed to do.
I have a question for legal. In the proposed language that we have here, it's a little confusing because "and" is marked out and "between" is capitalized, which makes me confused as to, we're still keeping the between 7 and 9 language, right? Can someone, this isn't accurate right now as to what I think what the proposal is. Is that correct?
Yes,
I'd like
I
to
would
make sure
agree
we-
with you on that.
Okay.
I would agree with you. I think that we need, if I may, I think it should say pedal vehicles may not operate on the streets between 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, period.
Okay.
Pedal vehicles may operate between 4 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, so long as, or something like that, like make it contingent upon NDOT and the director of the TLC approving the route. I think it needs to be reworked.
Yeah, the language now says that they cannot operate between 4 and 6, so we really just need language that would say they cannot operate between 4 and 6 unless they're operating on a route approved by NDOT director and, TLC director and NDOT engineering. Something to that nature.
I have a question. Let's say Director Rooker, you and engineering approve a route. Is that set in stone, or does the operator have to come back every time to you to get approval of that route?
Not sure I understand your question.
Well, you approve a route.
Yes, sir.
Today.
Uh-huh.
For an operator, and they use it that day. Is there any time frame on this? Because things change on the streets of Nashville.
We could do that. We could set a time frame on it by rule if you wanted to. But as of right now, we're not going through and was the ETV route. We're not going back through and seeing how it's affecting traffic. That's something we can do. We have the ability to do.
I have a question as to has the industry requested this change?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because
Yes.
we've heard from people who oppose the change, but no one here who is for the change. But they
There are
brought this
several,
to-
there are several company
Okay.
owners here. I guess they're choosing not to speak. But no, this request came from the industry. That's who requested it.
I guess they're relying on you to be their spokesperson.
I mean, I do, well, that's true. Ms. Barker's point about that they don't operate in this, I get the equality and the trying to put a level playing field, but they aren't the same vehicles as the ETVs. I mean, they do operate in a different way. So to the extent that it was gonna be the same, I'm not saying I'd be a yes on it, but I think language that mimics the ETV language specifically, that has I don't know if you can't use that because the Korean vets isn't part of their current jurisdiction or not. If we're trying to make it equal, it should be the same, I think, but, language between that and what was it, 803? Again, I'm not saying that I'm for that. I'm just saying if that's what the
Right.
change would be.
Well, we can definitely change the language and make it whatever you all want it to be and what legal thinks it should be.
I agree with Commissioner Penley that if the goal here is parity, that we should get as close to what already exists. And if that's your recommendation, I'm also not saying I'm for or against it, but I think that some language in there to have a reevaluation after 6 months or 12 months to look at the impact, positive, negative, neutral, would be something that I would recommend adding.
So, Mr. Chair, I've just another question. We got some correspondence that pointed out the difference between pedicabs and pedal carriages, and their potential usefulness or not in terms of keeping ride shares off the road, one thing or another. What I heard you say, Mr. Roker, is that if you approve a route, then anybody who's a part of this licensure category can use that route, not any particular vendor. I'm wondering if there's any reason to think differently about pedicabs that are providing individual transportation routes to people from a parking lot to a building or one thing or another versus a pedal carriage, which is more of an entertainment thing. I mean, parity isn't always about equality. It's about making the things that make sense. So just a question.
And it's also a different class of vehicle completely.
Well, yeah.
It can't go up a hill. Right? I mean, that's the, if you get stuck behind one of these, I mean, they through years of discussions with the TLC, they can't ride up a hill with passengers.
Right.
It is not the same as an ETV, and it's a different class of vehicle that may not deserve parity, because it can't go the speed of traffic.
The pedal carriages.
The pedal taverns.
Okay.
The pedal taverns.
Which are pedal carriages, it turns out.
I'm trying to use the,
Or
yeah.
pedicabs either. I mean, pedicabs aren't going the same speed as a car. I mean, they may serve a different function and maybe there is some argument that they, like was sent in the letter to us. I mean, but I don't think that they can maintain the same speed and if you're limiting them to these approved routes that are only on, I don't know that they are really helping with the train, like getting people from point A to point B if they can only go on some, very low traffic side street that's not getting them where they want to go. I mean, so.
How fast do the pedicabs go?
Like bicycle.
How fast can somebody ride a bike with a battery connected to it?
Depends on the class of the bike.
What,
And the rider.
15 and the rider.
I had a 28-mile class 3 bike. I never got up to 28. It's too hard. But seriously, how fast do the pedicabs go? I bet they go faster than the pedal carriages.
We have no data about how fast they go.
So I should go ride one, is that?
Sure, absolutely.
I will say, walking
They go
back and
pretty
forth-
fast.
Yeah, walking back and forth from the Titans games, you'll see those petty
Cabs.
cabs whipping up Woodland and certainly whipping down Woodland, so.
If they whip up Woodland, they're going pretty fast.
They go pretty fast. I've ridden one from the stadium to the courthouse parking lot, and they move along pretty quick.
I'd have to say they keep up with traffic during rush hour.
Yes.
So,
And what happens in the rules, they're defined differently, but they're treated the same.
correct.
Yes, sir.
Have we ever asked the operators of pedicabs about that? Guess they haven't complained.
No,
so-
sir, we have not.
Okay.
But under the current rule, both pedicabs and pedal carriages are not allowed to operate between 7 and 9 and 4 and 6.
That is correct.
Monday through Friday.
That is correct.
And they're both under the umbrella of pedal vehicles.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
When we talk about going to and from the stadium, you know, and the need, serving the public need, it seems like for pedicabs, that would be something that would benefit the city to be able to have a use between 4 and 6.
Sure.
Yeah.
And being downtown as much as you are, the petty cabs generally work events. I mean, that's generally what they do. You don't see a lot of them just randomly going down the street. They work events, the concerts and all those things to get people where they're going. But some do operate during, those times.
Do they need special, special permission to operate during a special event? Too many specials.
No, sir. Not if they're licensed to us, they can work.
What if the special event is 4 to 6?
And they can't.
Then they can't.
They can't.
No, sir.
Okay.
And I think the challenge is if you approved a route from the stadium to wherever, between 4 to 6, then pedal taverns could also use it, pedal carriages, excuse me.
That's correct.
But can you approve a route like that, for instance, during a special event, that a pedicab could use, but not a pedal carriage?
They're in the same classification and category, so whatever route is approved would be able to be used by both.
Okay, and they are prevented from operating in the same way?
That is correct.
But they have two different definitions, so could they not be, there could be separate rules that apply to, they fall under the same category of a petty vehicle, but if they have different definitions, I mean, is there some, this is to Ms. Haber, is there some reason why there couldn't be a distinction there? As opposed to lumping them together for purposes of this. Do you have any thoughts on that?
I don't see why not, but just for equity purposes, since they are both under chapter 6.75, I think I'd recommend them being treated the same unless there's a traffic reason or some evidence distinguishing the two. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you talk more about the meeting you had with the providers, the 4 companies? Were all 4 companies present?
Yes, ma'am. They were all there.
And how many of those are pedicab and how many are pedal carriage?
No, I'm sorry. All the pedal carriage companies were there. None of the petty cab companies were there.
Okay.
They-
How many of each do we have?
4 companies.
So 4 total?
4 total companies. Oh, 4 of each. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused. There are 4 pedal carriage companies and
Okay.
there's 4 petty cab companies.
Okay. And at the meeting, only the pedal carriage companies were
They
present?
were the only ones that we called.
Gotcha.
That we were talking to, because we were going over the rules and regulations with them, just as a refresher.
Gotcha.
And
Thank you. And how are the routes determined, the NDOT approved routes?
I would approve, the director, be me of transportation and licensing, would approve the route. Then it would go to engineering at NDOT. And then the NDOT engineers would take all kind of things into consideration. They would consider, how they can turn, how fast they can turn, roads they can be on. Is it going to congest it? Is it going to, they would take in all kinds of information to make the determination as to whether or not to approve the route.
And you recommending to approve, based on the, do you know what the routes would be already?
The companies would submit the routes.
So we don't know yet what they would be.
We're not creating the routes, and
Gotcha.
we don't create the ETV routes.
And you would only approve those routes if NDOT also agreed that those would not contribute to congestion?
Right. NDOT engineering would have the final say as to whether or not the route was approved.
And then if there needed to be modifications, we'd go back to the companies and they'd modify the routes as such?
Yes, ma'am. And the process of that, I mean, it's very tedious, actually. They have to go through and, this street to this street, this street to this street, 3rd Avenue to this street. And they have to, it's not just drawing a map somewhere. They have to be very specific into their route request.
And can you speak again as to why you're recommending approval?
Simply because the ETV routes were approved and the companies came to us and had literally, just said as a fairness issue, we would like to at least be considered to do this between 4 and 6 on specific routes like the ETV routes were.
Ms. Haber, if there is not parity between the ETVs and the pedal vehicles, are we looking at potential litigation?
If there is not parity, probably.
But if we have a rational basis for distinguishing the rules between the two, it would be very important then for us to have a rational, reasonable basis for the distinguishing between the two.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
And one of the ones Commissioner Hayes has brought up is that they're not the same vehicle.
That's right.
And they're not licensed the same, correctly? I mean, we have already differentiated between the two.
They're definitely not licensed.
You can discriminate as long as there's a rational reason for it.
Right, and they're not.
And there is.
They're not the same ordinance, they're not the same classification.
I would argue it's not discrimination, it's treating things differently because they're different. As somebody who knows a lot about discrimination.
And fundamentally, we go back to our guiding principle, which is it in the public necessity and convenience?
That is correct, yes, sir.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, I'm going to close the public hearing now and make one observation. It looks like there's a couple considerations here at this point. One, there is concern and legitimate concern about the language of the proposed changes to section 702, and there's been some discussions about that. So I'm not sure we have really a firm proposed language in front of us right now. And then number two, there's certainly been a lot of discussion and debate about the difference between ETVs, which are motorized, and pedal vehicles, which are advanced by the leg power of the riders. So that's, say what, Commissioner
Sorry, I
Penny?
made a bad joke. Flintstone power, if
Oh.
you will.
You're
There's
right,
a-
though.
Just to move this on, I think I'm going to make a motion, we defer this. I'd like to think about it more and maybe hear more from the industry, why we should do this. I don't have a problem with Mr. Rooker approving it. I just want to make sure we understand exactly what we're doing.
I'd also like to see some firmer language that brought up some of the issues that Commissioner Penley mentioned about the proposed language.
And if possible, I'd like to see what the proposed routes are.
We can ask the companies to submit what a route that they would, we can contact the companies and ask them to submit what they think, what route they would use and choose.
You would be asking them to envision what they might come to you if this was approved?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That would also include how they get back to the barn, so to speak.
Correct.
Yeah, and I think they ought to also address the elephant in the room, which is, can you keep up with traffic at all, you know? Or how are we supposed to consider that?
Right, and their route would have to include a way to get home, you know, get back where you started from. So that would, another thing that we would look at in approving or not approving.
Well, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, and is there any further discussion? Commissioner Claver?
This is a motion to defer till next month.
Correct. And it's open for discussion of any of the commissioners. All right. Hearing none, is there, all in favor of the motion to defer, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion to defer consideration of Rule 702 has been deferred to the September meeting. All right, next on our agenda is the annual hearing for the purpose of consideration of applications for certificates of public convenience and necessity for new or additional pedal vehicles. Mr. Rooker?
Yes, sir, we have one company that has requested an additional permit. I believe they're here today. A Music City Crawler, doing business as Music City Crawler, has applied for one additional permit. Their paperwork is in order. NDOT's recommendation was not to approve this because the core is saturated and there's just no more room for any additional things. Staff recommendation is the same as NDOT's. So we would request that not be granted.
Is there a representative from Country Music Crawler here that would like to speak? All right. Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. I'm Susan Pizzatola. I am the owner, and I created the Music City Crawler in 2015. For the newbies here, I am a woman and veteran-owned business. I currently hold 2 permits, and I'm requesting one additional. I understand everybody's concerned with the downtown corridor and everything, but there is, I believe, room for one additional when the board in the last few months approved extra scooters, extra taxis, extra horse carriages, extra low-speed vehicles last month, 10 additional. I don't think one pedal carriage is going to make that big of a difference downtown. The pedal carriages measure about 15 feet long. I'm asking for this one permit mainly to operate on Saturdays. I'm not interested in the 4 to 6. And I want to make a couple of notes here. As you know, the pedal carriages have been here since 2010, and it was the downtown partnership that invited the Nashville Pedal Tavern here. And it's been a staple here in Nashville and continues to be a staple here. It's the #1 choice of a unique attraction when tourists come here. We played a major role in the 16.8 million tourists that visited here last year. I want you to know that I've been watching this Downtown Connect study pretty well because I live downtown also. And if you go to the main page, Connect Downtown, what is Connect Downtown? The very last sentence stood out to me on here, and I'm going to read it to you. Our goal is to support both current and future Nashvillians planning for growth and ensuring that Nashville remains a great destination. Recently, Forbes magazine stated that a city's attractions are the heartbeat of a destination. We are listed on Visit Music City as an attraction, and many other sites as a must-do when visiting Nashville. We bring a lot of money and revenue into this city with our pedal carriages. People come here for the pedal carriages, believe it or not. They're unique in all kinds of ways. In 2022, National Geographic named Nashville as the best destination to travel. We are part of the destination, the reason for the destination, as stated in the Downtown Connect study. I believe that we bring a lot of revenue, as I stated earlier, and the destination serves as a major draw for the visitors, and the pedal carriages is that draw. I believe we play a major role in the number of tourists that come here. I'm requesting one additional permit today just to continue to fuel the pot of gold of Nashville's tourism industry. Any questions for me?
I have a couple.
Yes, sir.
Do you have anything that indicates there's a need for an additional one to meet the guests that visit our city?
I don't have anything physically with me right now, but I turn away guests and I refer guests to the other companies. As a matter of fact, this morning I sent an email, responded to an email, Angie, you may have gotten it, 60 rugby players coming, and from the UK, and I said in my email, I'm sorry, I can only accommodate 30 riders. I'm referring you to the Nashville Pedal Tavern, and sent it that email. I can show you that email if you'd like. I have a picture of the pedal bike I'm buying. I want to purchase the exact same model I have. I have a deposit on one. I spoke with Lisa last week. I'm not dropping $75,000 until you tell me I can get one. But I do have a deposit on one. It wouldn't arrive to this fall, and I wouldn't put it in operation until March. So it's not something that's immediately going to hit the roads.
I did see a note at your letter that accompanied your application with an asterisk that this would not start till March of 2025.
That's correct, sir.
And you are agreeable to only operating on Saturdays?
Yes, sir. And I can mark that bike any way you guys want to. I can put a big red flag on the roof, however you like. It is to meet the demand of the number of tourists that are coming here and choosing to ride all of us. We bring in more revenue than the pedicabs and the horse carriages and the low-speed vehicles.
Thank you, Ms. Pistola.
Thank you.
Oh, did anybody else have other questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hold on one second, I'm sorry.
Well, I just, I'm intrigued by the Saturday only,
Yes, ma'am.
potential for that, because I don't have a lot of appetite for adding any more pedal taverns to the Monday through Friday.
I understand.
But the Saturday only is an intriguing thing that we've talked about. When Ms. Costonis was here, she had looked into that, and it was, I think, a question mark as to whether that was something that, I think it was with the agreement of the applicant, maybe, that she had, does this ring a bell, Ms. Haber?
Sorry,
From a previous, like maybe
that
she
might have been the
ago?
meeting I missed
Okay.
earlier. Oh, Mr. Schlafer has a memory
TD's
of
got
it.
Okay.
the minutes.
Thank you.
Chair, if I may, my recollection of what Ms. Castonas said, that it would be a condition that the applicant would subject themselves to in order to limit a permit. We have nothing in our rules or in the code that would indicate such.
Are there other companies that have Saturday-only permits?
No, ma'am. It would be a good faith, and she's a nice lady, but it would be a good faith effort that you're gonna grant it for her to do it only on Saturday. If we saw her on Friday with it, the rule, if you grant it, you grant it. So she's saying only Saturday, and I'm sure she would only use it on Saturday. But we don't have any way to enforce just a Saturday or a weekend or Saturday, Sunday permit.
That was my next question, is how do we enforce Saturday only?
You can't. We don't have a way to enforce it, because if you give her a permit, she's got a permit.
So could we change our rules
You
to give us the authority to do this?
yes, you can change your rules to handle that however you see fit, I believe, but your rule can't be your rule can't go against the ordinance in any way, shape, form, or fashion. If the ordinance says, how the permit is drawn up, you can't come up with a rule that says, well, we're just gonna give a permit for a Saturday.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yes, sir.
It'd have to cover the whole class.
That is correct, yes, sir.
But we could make a case-by-case decision about that.
Yes, sir.
In fact, the rule might say that. And we could make all the rest of them just operate on Saturday and Sunday, couldn't we?
You have to change the ordinance to do that, yes.
The ordinance would have to be.
The ordinance would have to be changed, yes.
I'm just asking that the additional
can.
bike operate on Saturday. My other two would operate. I just need that third one for demand and supply, and
How's your demand Monday through Friday?
it's
Monday through Thursday?
Monday, Thursday. Mondays are good and Thursdays are good. Tuesday, Wednesdays are hit or miss. Most tourists are leaving or coming into town and stuff. I normally do one bike on Mondays and one bike on Thursday, about 3 tours each day.
Just thinking about ways to, I guess you have capacity.
Oh, yes.
Days that have a lot of capacity. Are there ways to incent tourists to come to Nashville during the week to, right? Like I look at hotel occupancy, parking occupancy, restaurant occupancy, business travel hasn't fully recovered. And that's probably partially also virtual meetings, but things that would be really good for our city to draw tourism would be how do we get leisure
The
tourists?
weekdays.
Yes, ma'am.
We run all kinds of specials and deals through the week driving them. I will tell you, just as you just said, my Thursdays used to be huge a few years ago. I mean, 2 bikes, I have 2 bikes, both of them would be out on Thursdays. We run our Thirsty Thursday special, you know. But now I'm lucky if I fill 1 bike on Thursday.
When you say lucky you fill 1 bike on Thursday, you mean, didn't you just say you do 3 tours on Monday and
Yeah, so
Thursday?
I do like a
Hold on.
yes.
Didn't you say you do 3 tours on Monday and Thursday? Okay. And when you say fill 1 bike, you mean bring full capacity for all 3 tours on Thursday?
Most of the time. So like today, my first bike at 10 a.m. had 9 riders,
And how many does your bike hold?
15.
15, okay.
Yeah, and each bike, you know, it's depending how many people book it. My second bike had 14 riders.
But you're getting 3 tours a day?
Yes, I'm getting
though.
about 3 tours a day through the
Okay.
week.
You're just not filling all 15 seats?
Right.
Okay.
Not always, sometimes.
I have a
Okay.
question. I know you as Nashville Party Barge.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
So can you, just because I'm new here, can you, is this a separate company or can
This
you
is a
kind
separate
of
company.
talk through that?
Yeah, I own both companies. The National Party Barge is an ETV company.
Okay. And under the Nashville Party Barge, there were 14 violations in Hub Nashville. So, I mean, good faith, certainly I want to give you the benefit of the doubt on that, but can you kind of speak to those violations?
I had no idea I had 14 violations. They were 2 violations in 2020 and COVID due to a mask and a driver. That's all I'm aware of.
Violation or complaint?
Violations in Hub.
If it's a hub thing, it's not a it's not a violation, it's just a complaint. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have yes, sir, we can go back and get them. We can, yes, sir. If anything that's put through the hub, we can retrieve. And what we give you is what the coordinator of Hub Nashville sends us every Monday morning about complaints on things that we regulate. We can get you any kind of detail you want.
I guess maybe what you're referring to is our spreadsheet in the email said citations, when it really is probably
There's
complaint.
2 different,
There's just two
there's
different.
reports.
It's 2 different reports, yes, sir. We'll send you a report of all the citations written and all the citations. We can even send you a report as to what happens to those citations when they're written. But the report we're sending you are just Hub Nashville complaints. There's just people complaining. We try to verify the complaints. Most of the time, we don't have enough information to verify the complaints. So we'll call the companies and just let them know that a complaint has been filed against them.
Ms. Pistola?
Yes, sir.
You were in front of this commission a year or 2 years ago with several complaints and violations, because I was sitting as a commissioner. I remember those.
Yes, sir. Those weren't complaints. It was a violation that
They were violations.
Right, but sir,
Yeah.
they were dropped. I was never found guilty of those violations.
By my recollection.
You punished me, the board punished me based on an arrest affidavit. I had not even been to court yet. We went to court 2 weeks prior, or past that, and the charges were dropped. But
You're saying the criminal charges were dropped, but I
Yes,
think
sir.
this commission made a finding of fact adverse to your position.
Yes,
And
sir.
we punished, and we brought sanctions.
Yes, sir, you did.
Wasn't it a lengthy probation in some other aspects?
It was, like you took a permit for 30 days, a second permit for 60 days.
Yeah.
and then I think one for
And
90
wasn't that
days.
involving having too many vehicles out on the road at one time?
No, sir.
What was it?
It involved that we were charged with providing alcohol on the vehicle, and that was dismissed.
When you say dismissed, you're talking about at the criminal court
At the
level.
criminal courts, yes.
Not in front of this commission.
Right.
But we made a finding of fact adverse, again, I'm repeating myself, but we made findings of facts adverse to your position, and we issued sanctions.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That is one of the things we are to consider is violations when deciding whether to issue additional permits or not.
I understand that, and that's been going on 3 years from that time. I haven't, to my knowledge, I have no citations with either company.
And Commissioner Rogers, thank you for helping me, or to refresh my memory as well.
The issue was not just alcohol on board, it was the way the alcohol was procured and brought across state lines.
Right, yes, yes.
And the way it was served, because it was basically operating as a bar
Yeah, illegal.
without a liquor by the drink
Yep.
license.
Obviously, that was before our time here, but it does sound as though there's a little smoke, at least at a minimum and with respect to your request about the Saturdays only,
Yeah.
we're being told by Director Rooker that takes some, good faith on our part and that you would keep your word as to that. And
Yes, ma'am.
that makes me question whether if enforcement would be a problem. Enforcement would be tough, and when this would be a good faith effort, I think a better record maybe before the commission might encourage that trust that maybe isn't there.
I understand.
With
I've been in
folks.
business for 10 years, and that was with my other company, not with this company. And that was an honest mistake.
It was also,
A very,
hold on, it was also Commissioner Rogers and Commissioner Hayes, if you can help me remember, I think it's the most severe sanctions we ever imposed on an operator by actually suspending their permit for periods of time.
exactly, and it was very severe and costly and lesson learned. And not just you suspended my permits, you took 2. So I went from, and I own 10 vehicles. I requested 8 permits just so the newbies know in the beginning, and I was only awarded 50% of 4. And then on that day of the sanction, you took another 50% of my company. So I only have 2 ETV permits and 10 vehicles sitting there right now.
It does seem the longer we're here, the more the layers of the onion are being peeled back.
Well, I understand that, sir, but just like you said, in good faith, it was a very severe incident, but it was the only incident, and it was an honest mistake.
And I appreciate that, but I think when we're already on the cusp of where we haven't done a Saturday-only consideration before, and that would be stepping out, I think that that's just something, that would weigh in on my decision on whether to give that a shot in
I
this
understand.
instance, so.
I
just wanted to
understand,
let
totally
you know
understand.
that. Thank you, though.
I've just waited a long time, many, many years, for an additional permit.
Thank you, Ms. Pistillo.
Yep, thank you.
Well, we've had a lot of discussions and a lot of thoughts that were shared here. Why don't we start with a motion and a second, and then if there's any further discussion, we can go with that before we take a vote. Is there a motion on the application by Country Music Crawler for an additional pedal carriage permit?
I'd move to deny the application for the additional permit based on failure to provide evidence of the public need and necessity. Specifically, multiple days per week that have open tours and open seats available doesn't point to me that there is a need to expand. One day a week when you could fill the other days of the week, just doesn't seem to warrant expansion.
I will second that motion.
May I add, Commissioner Hayes, that perhaps it would be not only just the need, but also public convenience and necessity.
Correct.
Does that second still stand?
Second still stands, thank
All
you.
right, there's a motion on the table, there's been a second. Is there any further discussion or comments by any of the commissioners? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the application by Country Music Crawler has the motion to deny the application because of a lack of proof of a public convenience and necessity has passed. All right, Mr. Rooker, we're moving on to Nashville Bar Bike's application for an additional pedal carriage. But if I understand correctly, there's a little twist to this one.
Yes, sir, there is a twist to this one. Nashville Bar Bike LLC is, like you say, asking for an additional pedal carriage, but in return, they are going to turn in their entertainment transportation vehicle permit. So this is, he's just asking for one, and he's giving one up, so this is not putting any more vehicles on the road. It's just a different kind of vehicle that's being put on the road. The ETV permit would be turned in to TLC. We are recommending that, staff's recommending that this be approved. All his paperwork is in order and gets us ETV off the road.
But going to the question that we were reviewing before, there's a difference between the speed of an ETV and the speed of a pedal vehicle.
That is true. Yes, sir. There's definitely a difference in the speed.
Okay.
Remind me again, if you would, Director Rooker, the NDOT recommendation for the number of permits on the road versus how many we currently have?
We have, I think, 91 permits for entertainment transportation vehicles. There are 91 permits. This would knock it down to 90
Well, if we're swapping.
if you're swapping it.
I mean, and remind me again what the recommendation from NDOT is from their Connect Downtown study, how many,
It is for approval. Oh, I'm sorry.
the number of, it's
Yes.
lower, it's like.
35 to
yeah,
70.
70 was the
Yes.
top end of that.
Yes, ma'am, 35 to 70.
So actually swapping one out, if we're trying to get to closer to 70, we're not really making progress by swapping one out.
You're just swapping it. You're still putting, still the same number of vehicles would be on the road.
No, but it's 35 to 70 ETVs.
ETVs, correct.
Or was it?
No, it's 35 to
was it
70.
slow-moving vehicles?
No, it was ETVs, yes.
Which the battle taverns
Or don't
don't
count for that.
Is there a representative of Nashville Bar Bike that would like to speak? And before you start, Mr. Rooker, if I understand, if we deny this, it doesn't change the number of ETVs?
No, sir. If you deny it, he would have an ETV permit and the same number of permits he has for pedal carriages.
Please introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, Commission. My name is Jacob Badazuski. I'm a representative for Nashville Bar Bike and Nashville Bar Bus. I'm here on behalf of us trying to make a proposal. Basically, what we want to do is get a large, slow-moving vehicle off the road and transfer it to a smaller, slow-moving vehicle. Right now, Nashville Bar Bike has almost 13,000 five-star Google reviews. In our eyes, we're the most reviewed pedal carriage in the nation. These positive reviews drive customers to our company. However, we can't. Oh, yep. If you want to pull up the review one.
But is that a comparison of the two vehicles you're talking about?
Yes, sir. That is a size comparison.
All right, thank you.
The reviews drive customers to our company. However, we can't meet the demand. To help serve these customers, we utilize the bar bus, which is a 15-passenger bar bus, to strictly serve the overflow of the customers. While this is effective, passengers moved to the bus are disappointed that they don't get the pedal carriage experience, hence the request for an additional carriage. We understand that the public necessity and convenience needs to be considered, and to that end, we are proposing to immediately surrender the 15-passenger ETV and dissolve the LLC. I've got a couple photos of the size comparison, you know, we're about half the size of the footprint of an ETV. And if he can pull up a video, oh, those are additional safety measures we've got. We've got seat belts on every seat on our bike. We're the only pedal carriage here in town that has seat belts. And I've also got a video.
Do you have pedal vehicles already?
Yes, sir. We've already
How
got
many?
two.
Two.
Yep, and we are operating 100% on the weekends and about 70 to 85% on weekdays. So we have the demand, and I can show you our scheduling stuff if you'd like to see that to prove that. And this is a video of us blowing by an ETV. I know you guys state speed is an issue, but our bikes are motorized. They are tuned to do the applicable max speed in the ordinance, which is 15 miles an hour. We have, I believe, 0 hub complaints for both businesses. I don't believe we've ever been cited.
And you have one ETV?
We do.
And that's why you would be dissolving Nashville Bar Bike?
Bar bus.
Bar bus.
Yeah, we
Nashville Bar
would
Bus.
dissolve the ETV business
Okay.
in exchange for the new permit of the pedal carriage. We are not worried about the 4 to 6. We don't want to be part of the problem. What we're proposing is we could even only operate after 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. It would be good faith, but, you know, we have good standing with Mr. Rooker. He sees the behavior of our drivers out on the roads. We're, I believe, the only pedal carriage company that starts and ends our tours on private property. We're not dropping off anywhere inside the city core. Our drivers are some of the best, well-represented drivers. They now sit down while they're driving down Broadway, requested by Mr. Rooker. It's not in the ordinance, but as good faith, we are now sitting down, driving down Broadway for safety reasons. That way they're not distracted, they're faced forward, both hands on the wheel. Let's see, we've already purchased the 3rd bike. It's already been inspected by Mr. Rooker, and it is fully insured. Let's see, and I believe Mr. Rooker was even willing to attest, you know, to the standing that we have with TLC. I know Ms. Alarcon also is in, or NDOT, I would say, is in agreement that we approve this permit, or you all approve this permit. And as far as, you know, the public convenience and necessity, you know, I showed you the smaller footprint. We're faster than the ETVs. And we do have a lot of demand. I send every other pedal carriage business every weekend. We're turning away weekdays. We need a 3rd bike to meet the demand, and we're also willing to kind of compromise with you all and take an ETV off the road.
I have a couple questions. Have you already purchased the bike?
Yes, ma'am. It's been inspected by Mr. Rooker, and it is fully insured.
And I just want to make one correction. There is one report in Hub Nashville for Nashville Bar Bike in 2024.
Understood. I wasn't made aware of that. Normally, he would call us if anything came through.
And then, just as an operator myself, how many people does the bus hold?
15.
Not,
The bus holds 15.
the bus holds 15, and how many does the bike hold?
15.
Okay, so it would be the same number of passengers
Yes, ma'am.
on both. Okay, thank you.
How much was the purchase of the vehicle, the pedal vehicle?
About $80,000.
Just for the record, who are you?
I'm Patrick Lynch. I'm the owner.
You're the, okay. What about the difference in noise between your ETV, which has significant regulations to reduce the noise, and your pedal vehicle?
So we've actually had Mr. Rooker and TD himself out to our location to tune our radios within the ordinance. So we are within their guidelines and within the ordinance.
You're shaking your head up and down. Why don't you tell us what you know?
Director Rooker and I did go out to Nashville Bar Bike. We measured off 50 feet, and I relied on Director Rooker's past SEC official experience to tell me exactly how many yards that was. We had the ordinance in front of us, the plainly audible, the decibel reading. They had the decibel reader there, and they set their music at that level.
What about your passenger noise?
I'd say we're close, probably a little bit less as loud as the ETVs. Our guests,
how do you justify that? Or
well, our
why
guests
do you
are
say that?
facing each other.
Yeah.
They're not facing out like the ETVs. So they're projecting out, we're projecting in. So it's kind of more centered.
Again, as someone who has my own tourist
Oh,
company.
I've ridden your boat a few times.
Thank you. What happens if we say no? Like, you already bought the bike, like, how does that work?
We have another business that we could move it to in Austin, Texas. But I don't know if I should say that.
Why don't you get up at the table, okay? So everybody can hear you. And once again, just introduce yourself.
Patrick Lynch,
And you are the owner?
the owner.
Okay. And what role are you?
I'm the general manager.
Okay.
He does a great job. And,
Well, you
we
guys
have-
are really ingratiating yourselves with
Yeah.
this commission today, you know?
But if you guys didn't improve, it'd be really disappointing. But that third bike could also, we get so much demand that if a bike were to go down, it's devastating to us. So,
And the reason you're requesting the swap is because you get more bike requests than bus requests, is that correct?
So I think Sue spoke to it earlier, like people come to Nashville and they really want to do this one thing. And then they try and get us on Saturday and there's no shot because it's been booked out. And this is across all the companies. And then they go back to Friday and that's booked out. Then they'll do Thursday. But they don't arrive on Wednesday. And that's where our one opening happens. So like on Thursday, we'll be like, oh, well, you guys could do the bus. And then we try and sell them on the bus and we do. And they do it and not having nearly as much fun.
I experienced that with the pedal pontoon and a kayak. Like, you could have a motor on your boat or you could propel
Yeah.
yourself. And you still want to have fun, but it's more fun on the boat. So I understand that.
But the dynamic of the pedal tavern, everyone's, like Jake said it correctly, where when you're facing each other, it's like, it's way more engaging than when you're just like looking out at the street, trying to holler at people on the street to engage.
Our guests aren't screaming out into the public. They're just dancing and karaokeing.
It's just a better experience.
Much better.
So tell me about how you apply for an additional application or permit in Austin, Texas. We know what the experience is here. What's it like in Austin, Texas?
Oh,
How do you do it?
I mean, they have like a transportation, it's pretty similar. Like you fill out an application, you get a bike inspected, you do insurance, you have them come out to your shop and they do the inspection there.
And do you have to appear in front of their transportation licensing commission?
No,
It's just approved by the Director of Transportation Licensing in Austin? What county is that?
they have a Mr. Rooker in Austin that approves it. So it doesn't go in, there's, not that I'm aware of, like maybe if you get in trouble, you go in front of a commission, but there's nothing.
How many pedal vehicles do you have in Austin, Texas?
We have
On the
four,
on the
well,
road.
5 in Austin, and then we have 3 in Savannah.
If you surrender the bus permit, where's the bus going?
We will probably donate it. So if any of you guys have a charity and you want us to donate it, let us know.
So I'm Margaret Allison, Nashville Bar Bus. I use the bus for trash waste diversion for colleges for move out. So that is what the bus would be retired back to. That was how it was initially purchased for a charity to be able to divert waste. Thank you.
Other questions of these gentlemen?
No, but I have a question for Ms. Haber. With respect to the proposed swap, how would that work with, given that these are not in the same category? You know, there was a question about swapping sightseeing and ETV permits. So what would be the practical way? Wait just a second and we'll see if she, yeah.
So I think the difference in the ETV and the seated sightseeing vehicle was that they both fall under the same category of vehicle, right? So like if they swap one, we'd still have the same slow-moving vehicles on the street. It would just be under the other category. Here, as far as, I think they would just, I guess it's a terminate the ETV permit or revoke it.
So we would make, and as part of, it would be a revoking of and awarding an additional permit for the other sort of in one deal?
It's a great question. How is this different from the swaps that we disapproved in a previous meeting?
Well, I think that's the issue. I think the SSV and the ETVs are both slow-moving vehicles, so the swap wasn't really a swap for one or the other. It was kind of the same thing, was my understanding.
But we actually, they're different public necessity. They had a different under, yeah, so they were not, there was a different demonstration, I think, between, even though they fell under the same category, because that was part of the record, and that was in the minutes from our last, or from whenever that meeting was.
That's right.
Okay, so, okay, that just, what, yeah.
And this is the annual meeting for the pedal carriage. So this would be where he would ask for an additional permit for that. So he's asking for that, and if he gets that, he's going to release his other one voluntarily. I don't think you would have to revoke it.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not asking for a swap. What we're proposing is, if granted this permit, we will dissolve the bus LLC.
Okay, thank you.
How is that different than a swap?
Well, I think that there's enough merit to have this application get approved based off of the demand for the business without even touching the bus. But we understand what the city's trying to accomplish by lowering ETVs. So, it's like, it's semantics, kind of, but we are giving it up voluntarily. You are actually approving us because you want to approve us.
Yeah, I'm theoretically unopposed to it. I just don't, I'm constitutionally against swaps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, from my perspective, if I may, we're all kind of stuck with 91 licenses for ETVs because of the state law. And the only way to reduce that is for someone to give up a license, frankly. And then we don't have to to get that back out to anybody else. And so for me, that's the upside, is that it's not it's not a swap. But we happen to know that they're going to give up their license and it's voluntary and it's good faith, yeah, kind of like the other things we've been talking about. But for me, the upside is there's very few ways to reduce the number of ETV licenses in this town. We all know it needs to be 35 to 70. And anything that does that, I'm kind of in favor of.
I just want to be very clear that we're not opening ourselves up to additional swaps. Because last meeting, or the meeting before, I don't know, I've slept since then, we as a commission decided that swaps were not going to be approved. So again, I'm not against doing this. I just don't want to set a precedent that this is categorized as a swap, because then we will open the door to other swap requests, which we've already decided we are not open to.
Well, if I remember correctly, that was specific to, they wanted to change a tour bus permit to an entertainment permit. So it wasn't so much.
I just
the
want to be
swap,
clear on the
it's
record
what
that
we were
that's not
swapping
what
to.
we're doing, yeah.
Yeah, the concern was that they were going from sightseeing vehicles to entertainment vehicles, and the public inconvenience of the noise was a factor that we considered. And I want to point out, there is a way, I mean, if a company has complaint, if an operator gets enough complaints, we can actually revoke their permit as well. But we need proof of that. here, what I think what we're looking at is your business model or your business needs has changed. You've demonstrated to us that there's a significant need in the of guests to this community for additional pedal vehicles. And what I would say here is that this would be characterized as, if we granted you this additional permit, you are conditioned, it would be conditioned upon you surrendering the ETV and dissolving the company associated with that. Is that correct, gentlemen?
Yes, sir. It'll happen today if granted this permit.
And I'm sure Mr. Rooker can follow up on that to make sure that they turn in, because that's what they do, is you surrender your permit and it gets turned into
I
him.
will personally go to his house if I have to.
And we don't have to go to extremes. And I think we have done this in the past where we've conditioned permits being granted upon certain conditions, and I think we're legally okay in doing that if we decide to do this.
I think
to
that's
approve it.
right, and it's under section 675030 of the Metro Code. Subsection A states, if the MTLC finds that further or additional pedicab or pedal carriage service in the metropolitan government area is required by the public convenience and necessity, and that the applicant is fit, willing, and able to provide such service and to conform to the provisions of this chapter and the rules promulgated by the MTLC may issue a certificate of public inconvenience and necessity stating the name and address of the applicant, the number of vehicles authorized upon such certificate, and the date of issuance. Subsection B states, in making the above findings, the MTLC shall, at a minimum, take into consideration the number of pedicabs and pedal carriages already in operation, whether existing service is adequate to meet the public need, the character, experience, financial condition, and responsibility of the applicant, and such criteria as may be adopted by the MTLC and its rules. So I do agree with that, and I think thanks to your clarification, I think that based on that criteria, you can decide whether you want to make the finding, whether to approve an additional permit, and then you don't have to take any action with regard to the ETV permit necessarily. It's up to him to turn it in, if you condition it that way or not, but you're not really taking any action to revoke or suspend or swap the permit.
They're just going to surrender the permit.
Correct.
Correct, okay.
What happens in the event that they don't surrender the permit?
I'll go get it.
No, I mean, if we condition the issuance
can't.
of the permit for
Right,
the
right.
pedal vehicle upon the condition of surrendering within 24 hours or whatever, excluding weekends, whatever magic language you want, then if they don't surrender the permit, then they lose their permit for the pedal vehicle.
Yeah, and I get that, and it's just coming very close to a swap for me, and I just want to be very clear that that's not what we're doing, because I don't want to open up additional requests for swaps.
Can you answer?
Good point, good point.
Relative to your ETV, does it see the same kind of demand?
Right now, we use the ETV for overflow from the bikes.
So the answer to the question is there's not enough demand for the ETV.
We don't run the ETV in the same way as like the other companies do. Like we have it for overflow because we've had so much demand. So when we created the business, it went in as, I'm not out there trying to get people to just do the bar bus by itself. Does that make sense to you?
You're not marketing it.
Yes.
It does. I mean, and as I think, I'm really torn with this, because if there's an ETV that's lightly used, right, it's overflow, it's once or twice a week versus a pedal.
You would be forcing us to put it into use more.
Correct,
You know?
but it's a vehicle that can maintain the speed of traffic better, perhaps.
Yeah.
Arguably. I
think it's
argue all the time that
Yeah,
some
but-
of these vehicles
yeah.
can't, the ETVs and
I think a lot of this has to do
tractors.
with whomever is operating these vehicles is in control of a lot of that. And when you have a good operator, which Jake and all the guys have proven, they've done a great job, and I think Mr. Rooker would attest to that. When you have proper training and proper drivers doing the proper things, we don't have this crazy effect on traffic. We're not going 4 miles an hour. Like, the buses don't go very fast either because people are hanging over the sides and like they can't accelerate
Yeah,
super
no, I
quickly.
mean, what they've told me is that it's not safe for them to drive more than 12 miles an hour because people are standing.
Yeah.
And they'll fall out, right? Or they can't make the turn. And so their manuals, or maybe it was taken out of the manual because
Yeah.
it shouldn't say that, but they used to have in the manual, you have to drive slow.
Yeah.
And that was a part of the problem.
That video is also great.
Sure.
You know, I mean, we blow by buses daily. Their
And-
guests are standing, our
How are,
guests are
how are,
sitting.
how are hills for you guys?
We can conquer any hill here in Nashville with our bikes.
Well, Conquer's one thing, can you get up at a decent
Yes.
speed?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I think that you guys are referring to one company that doesn't have like a really strong motor, but the vast majority of the pedal carriages in the city can go up the hill.
Yeah, we've outfitted our bikes with top-of-the-line programming, motors, everything.
I have the unfortunate history of, knowing and talking to a lot of the previous tour operators being in the tour business. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when y'all were first starting, there's something like you were trying to get a permit for a conference vehicle, and it was like actually a different vehicle,
Yes.
and it was not
So when-
the one that was approved by the TLC.
When we
And I'm
first-
new
oh,
here, so
yeah.
can you just,
Yeah. We-
I remember there was some kerfuffle around like
Yeah.
what was submitted versus what was actually on the street. And again, I wasn't on the TLC then, I just sort of heard it through the tour operator
Yep.
grapevine. So can you just get me up to speed on how that started
So
and?
when we first started, we bought these 2 bikes from China. We purchased them, they arrived, and they were not suitable under any condition to be used. They were essentially just super cheap bikes. And we didn't know that until they, came off a storage container and we brought them in.
Did they not manufacture to the specifications that you asked for, or what?
No, we
why-
thought that we were getting something that was gonna be decent, and it was like I don't know what their size were. I think it was like a 12-foot bike instead of a 17-foot. And then when we got them, we were like, they were terrible. I'll show you pictures of what they look like after a
Extremely
year
unsafe.
of sitting. And there wasn't a lot of reviews of them, and we probably could have done our homework better, but that was our first foray into the pedal carriage business, and, we just didn't know. And we came back to the city and we were like, dude, you cannot find them that are smaller than 17 feet. Like, every manufacturer makes a very similar style bike. Like, and there's only like, what would you say, 3 or 4 manufacturers? Like, so there wasn't a lot of options. So we came back and we're like, hey, to get one of these good ones, which are, they were like 4 times the price of the ones that we had initially bought. And I think the commission was upset, but that the vehicle was going from 12 feet to 17 feet. And I understood that. And we took one bike off of the street for a year as like our penance. Yeah. And it was like, but it wasn't us trying to dupe you guys or anything. Like, we bought these bikes, we intended to use them, and they were just really poorly made bikes from China. And now we have really expensive bikes that are really well made and well maintained.
So were you all sanctioned through that process, or was there
We
any
did it-
sort of?
We did it voluntarily, and I don't know if you remember Billy.
Yeah,
Billy-
sure.
So Billy just accepted that we wouldn't use it for a year.
Got it.
And we didn't. Yep.
Can sorry, I'm Margaret Allison, I'm one of the partners. I wanted to speak to what Mr. Hayes said about the difference between an ETV and, this is gonna be very short, there's no purpose in moving, and one of the bikes. One of the things that we've seen is that tourists want more sustainable methods of tourism in the cities, and these are electric motors versus my bus, which is great and does a great job of hauling away college waste, but it is a diesel motor. So when looking at more sustainable and green ways to have these tourists come into the city, this is just one of the other steps we were considering, so.
For your drivers, my drivers go down around downtown and hand out, little River Queen flyers. One of my drivers was down near the Omni or somewhere around there last week and said there was I believe it was a Nashville Bar Bike that had a woman's bare rear end sticking out, and the drivers were sort of, encouraging that behavior. What can you speak to kind of your how this is going to, how that is part of the public necessity? Like, how are we going to make sure that this behavior is going to be contained in the
I actually
in the
have a
downtown
photo
core?
of this guest. A lady walking down the street sent a picture to me. She actually has shorts on, but they were just cheeky shorts. I could show you the photo if you'd like.
I'd like to see. Me too. I don't.
Let it be noted that it's the female commissioners that want to see the photo.
Those are her shorts.
Oh, yeah, those really are.
Those are extremely cheeky. And it's right on Korean Vets and 4th, I believe.
We do have like a rule list that and I think all the companies have something similar to this, like, don't throw anything off the bike. If you drop something, don't go off it. We have these like rules. And I would think nudity
It's posted on the interior of the bike.
It's on the bike.
Are they being enforced though? If
Yes.
this is,
Yes.
I'd have to ask the question.
We enforce our rules very heavily.
And that lady, she just rode around and it was fine.
We can't tell somebody to put a different piece of clothing on.
Yeah,
I mean, had she taken her shorts off, she would have been kicked off the bike,
okay.
is what would have happened. We would have pulled into a loading zone and evacuated her from our bike, and she would have departed.
Yeah, and I think you guys sympathize with what we're trying to do too. Like,
course.
I'm a small business owner, you guys are small business owners, I want to see y'all do well. And like, there is a concern about that kind of thing
Of course.
happening in the city. So it's, we're just trying to balance the public need with the legitimate business needs of our residents.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, absolutely. Any more questions of these gentlemen? Thank you. It's been helpful and enlightening, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion regarding Nashville Bar Bike's application for an additional pedal carriage permit?
I have a question before the motion. It is part of what we can do to have them conditionally surrender the other one, correct?
Correct.
And we
To
can
condition the other ETV permit.
condition the other ETV permit. And then Metro Legal, that is not considered a swap under our current definition of a swap?
I don't think we really have a current definition of a swap, but based on what you discussed last month with the seated sightseeing vehicles and the ETVs and the differences in the definitions of the public convenience and necessity. I think there is a distinction here with regard to that. And there's also a distinction in that they're gonna voluntarily relinquish the ETV permit.
So in the future, another company could come in and do the same thing, and there would be a precedent set if they wanted to surrender an ETV permit for a pedal carriage permit.
If the commission makes a finding that it meets the public convenience and necessity, like you have to make the finding before you allow the swap. Do you know what I'm saying? Or
Before you allow
before
the
you allow
issuance of
the-
an additional
Correct,
permit.
allow the issuance of additional permit.
And we haven't made a finding today because other tour operators don't even, they have capacity. The industry has capacity. They have capacity during the week.
I agree with that, that based on the testimony of the other applicant for an additional permit, that she had capacity, and that was one of the reasons why, and, that was denied. I am personally, I find it very compelling about the giving up of the ETV and the reduction of the 91 to 90, as in there are limited ways to do that, so I'm torn there.
I don't think that it's not a gray spot though, right? Like, we can't just, we have to find that there's actually a need for more to be able to give a new license. Unfortunately.
So I would make a motion that based on the condition of a reduction in ETVs, that it is in the public interest, that it is in the interest of public convenience to expand pedal carriage licenses by one.
Second.
There's a motion on the table. Any further discussion?
I guess my concern with that is it's a different vehicle class. Right? It's not, the ETV is not the same. And I'm somebody who, I think like many on this commission, believe that it would be good to get into the range, right, that we set.
And I guess what I'm saying is that our standard across categories is public convenience and necessity. And that's our responsibility as a commission. And that in my view, and in terms of my motion, it is to say that it is in the interest of public convenience and necessity broadly, because of this condition, to grant one additional pedal carriage permit during this annual hearing.
For Nashville Bar Bike.
For Nashville Bar Bike.
And I would add to Ms. Westlake's point there that the previous applicant was not going to be removing one vehicle off the street and changing that with a different entertainment type vehicle, although not an entertainment vehicle. So the two, I think that there is an argument to be made for the public necessity being different in this instance with the surrender of the ETV permit as a condition.
Any further discussion? All right, there is a motion on the table to approve Nashville Bar Bike LLC's application for an additional permit, and I think I heard a second before, didn't I?
I second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
All right. The motion for Nashville Bar LLC to have an additional permit has carried. I expect that ETV permit to be surrendered forthwith. Tomorrow's a working day. Thank you. Mr. Rooker, will you make sure and report to this commission? I think we'd like to know, maybe not even wait till next September. Maybe you can shoot an email to everybody to know that this has been surrendered, okay? All right.
Chair, I'll be happy to.
Thank you. Why don't we take the next topic on the agenda, which I think will be rather quick. Oh, and I'm going to close the annual hearing for purposes of consideration of applications for certificate of public convenience and necessity for any additional pedal vehicle permit. I think we can take the next one real quickly, and then we'll take a short break before we go into the discussion about taxi cabs, okay? Is that all right with everybody?
Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Rooker, next on our agenda is low-speed vehicles. Annual hearing.
Yes, sir. It's the annual hearing for low-speed vehicles. We do not have any additional permits that have been filed with us, or no new companies have filed any application. Joyride is the company that has filed. So there are no new applications.
All right, I'm going to open the annual hearing for purposes of consideration applications for certificate of public convenience and necessity for new or additional low-speed vehicles, and I'm closing the hearing. So I would suggest we take a 10-minute break.
Yes, sir. We'll do it.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's shoot to be back here about 25 till 3. Thank you. Ricky, I got to run up to Division 1. I'll be right back down. Calling the meeting back to order, please. Mr. Rooker, next on our agenda is taxi cabs, and I believe we have a guest speaker today to give us a little background on that.
Yes, sir, we do. Last month, the commission asked NDOT and asked TLC to do some research and find the difference between cab rates in Nashville and other cities comparable to the size of Nashville. And Mr. TD over there has got some information and a little presentation for you guys, so I'll turn it over to him at this time.
Sure. And Commissioners, you'll recall in your meeting last month that you reverted the rates that the taxi cabs are paying to Metro to the pre-pandemic level. There wasn't an increase in the fees that they pay. It was just a revert back to the pre-pandemic level. And so with that extra cost now to the taxi cab companies, we were asked, as Mr. Rooker said, to look into the rates that they charge to the public for operating. So we're able to pull data together, which you would have received in your packet from 436 cities in the United States and Canada. There were two common denominators I found as I looked at different rates around the country. Everyone's got an initial charge or a meter pull, and everyone's got a charge per mile. From there, it kind of differs how everyone handles it, whether they're charging for additional passengers, whether they're charging per minute, whether they're charging for luggage, whether there's city fees, whether there's toll fees and bridge fees, what the flat rates are. All of those things can differ from city to city. But on these two data points, we've got lots of information. And what I can tell you is Nashville's initial charge, the meter pull fee, is tied for 16th highest at $5. Among the 436 cities we were able to collect data on. And Nashville's per mile charge at $2.50 an hour is 171st highest, tied at that. So the next thing I'll do is I'll just pull up this section of your rules, which shows the rest of those fees to open the discussion on where you'd like to go from there. In Section 219 of your rules, these are your current taxi cab fares. You have a meter pull at $5, $2.50 per mile, $21 per hour, or 35 cents per minute. It's $2 extra per passenger. And then you have your flat rates, which Mr. Rooker read out to you at the last meeting, and those are displayed there. So these are what we currently have with taxi cab fares in the city. And if there's any appetite to change this, we would put that on the agenda for September and have a public hearing.
And I think TD also has some city-to-city comparisons, if y'all would like to hear those. There's just so many cities we pulled from, so he just put that together.
They're included in the packet.
Okay, good.
So that whole list is in there. Again, our meter pull is high. It's tied for 16th highest across the country. Our per mile charge is somewhere near the middle.
The materials I had that were provided in the packet are in the cities are in alphabetical order. In Nashville, you said it's 171 out of 400. What other cities are we comparable to?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I took the data set and I just sorted it by lowest to highest, and so I was able to find us. That's an Excel sheet that you have there in front of you, so I can sort the data set lowest to highest again and kind of look, but when you do that, it doesn't move the city name with it, so it wouldn't be too helpful.
Do we have access to this raw data? Like to potentially just manipulate it and look at, for averages and comparisons and things like that?
I can certainly provide the Excel spreadsheet to the commission, if that would be helpful.
It would, yes, please.
Sure.
We had a couple of people who spoke during the public comment period about this, and it looks, I think Mr. Hassan was opposed to an increase in rates. Yes or no on that? You were opposed to an increase in rates?
Just three things we need to be increased. It's around the airport, as we got people parking their car at the Davidson Pike.
Airport?
We got our drivers sitting in an airport for at least 3-4 hours sometimes to get the fare. When they're running a meter, the Davidson Pike, even not gonna be $10.
Real quick, do you mean airport to from downtown and airport to from West End, both of those airport?
Yeah, come to the table, please.
They're two different airport fares, do you mean both of them?
Yeah, both of them to be increased, from, airport to downtown, and downtown to the airport, it's $30 right now. And because it's especially, during the rush hour, our drivers get an effect for that. So if we like to, make, from 30 to 35, and to West End to can be 40 instead of 35. And also around airport, to be minimum at least $25, because our drivers sitting in the airport at least 3 hours. Even if you go minimum wage, it's $15. If we do the $25 instead of front and meter, it will be a help to our drivers. And we got another.
Sorry, could you repeat that last thing you just said?
Around the airport, right there, like from airport to Donaldson Pike to Elm Hill Pike to inside of Brawley Parkway, that section, to can be $25 minimum. Instead of-
$25 minimum?
Yeah, $25 minimum.
Thank you.
And also the biggest issue we have in downtown, for example, like after afternoon, when our drivers run in meter, stuck in traffic, if your car's running less than 5 miles per hour, the meter is not running. So I like to we put that time off out of the meter, to meter can be run for that time, because if somebody go 2 mile, as we got $2.50 a mile, it's gonna be $5. Because the meter's not, the car's not going less, more than 5 miles per hour, the meter will not tracking, it's not running. So if we take time off and on, take them off out of meter, that will help our drivers well too. Thank you.
What regulates the meter running or shuts the meter off at 5 miles per hour? Is it the meter or is it our regulations?
The meter is running with the transmission, tracking with the transmission.
Okay.
It's set up with the transmission. If car's not going past 5 miles per hour, the meter was not running. Even if you go from downtown to Franklin, that will be probably around $10-15. But the only thing
So,
they
so
set
let,
up.
let me ask you this then.
Yes, sir.
What are you proposing is the solution for that? That
The solution
somebody's
is
supposed to have a
take the-
stopwatch to keep track of it, or what?
Yeah, time off. We take time off out of the meter.
What do you mean take time off of the meter?
If we take time off of meter, even if your car is going.
All right, so if your time's not measured by the meter, what are you gonna measure it by?
We had a time on, like, let's say you say, can you wait on me 5 minutes? We can turn the time on, the meter's gonna run because you told us to wait on us. But if you don't, like, I drive on the road, the meter will not run, so because this time is off.
So the driver can manipulate the meter to keep the time on?
Time off and on,
Even
yes,
if
sir.
you're going less than 5 miles an hour?
Yes, if we take the time off, it's gonna be same way, so like you're speeding 70 miles per hour. That would be just charged by mileage, $2.50 by mileage.
Mr. Rooker, I've got a question. What, is there a regulation we have on taxi cabs about the meter time on, time off?
I'm gonna have to defer to legal. I don't believe
or it
we
may be something
do.
that can be
It may
answered
something
later.
in the ordinance, maybe.
Yes.
I'm not sure that we have a taxi rule from the TLC that even addresses time on, time off.
Okay.
There might be something in the ordinance, though, so we'll check and see.
That's why I'm asking. I
Yeah,
have
I'm-
not seen anything.
If, I'm gonna need a minute to look for it, but I will look for it while you guys continue the discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Heather.
Thank you.
Don't talk till you get up by the microphone. And this isn't a public hearing, so I'll give you 20 seconds to tell me why I should let you speak, okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
That's
My
pretty
name is
rude,
Abdul
Pat.
Sagdiri, Think Cap. I'm the chairman. So I want to explain for the increase the fees. It's hard to us because we have a illegal taxi in a city, and if increase the fees for the fare, it is our business down because we have an illegal taxi is grown up. So a lot of illegal taxi running in the city. So I don't think it helping us to increase the fees for the fare, for the taxi fare.
Wait, are you saying you don't think it's gonna be helpful to increase the fares
Yes,
for
the fare.
taxis? Okay.
Because the Uber, it charge $10,
Yeah.
$5, and $16. So it is killing to us, and also it is illegal taxi. It is running everywhere, and also the.
Thank you. I appreciate your input.
Thank you.
And I remember you back when your company was first came before us to be authorized. So I'm glad to see you're still in business.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.
Chair,
Yes.
if we may, Ms. Ramsey found the applicable Metro Code section about the timing and the meter.
It's 6.72.265 taxi meters. Part A, each taxi, and this is the second to last sentence, each taxi meter shall denote when the vehicle is employed and when it is not employed. It shall be the duty of the driver to activate such taxi meter into a recording position at the beginning of each trip and to deactivate such taxi meter into a non-recording position at the termination of each trip.
And that's the code by Metro Council. So the only
Yes, Chair.
revisions to that would have to go, a recommendation from us to the Metro Council to have them change, to alter their code.
I believe so, yes.
But it doesn't seem to really address the fact that when the vehicle's not going more than 5 miles per hour, the transmission's not triggering the meter.
It does not.
Okay.
A question about the flat fees or the flat rates. If they were to be increased, and there was someone that is a legal operator, but they wanted to charge less, do they have any flexibility to charge less than the rate that, the flat rate?
I think this would be a maximum rate.
Right.
So if they wanted to charge $10, they're well within their right to
They
do
could
that,
try
I
to be
believe.
more competitive if that was an issue.
Sure.
So-
The $30 and the 30, all those are just maximum, what they can charge maxed out. It's not what they have to charge. They can charge anything lower that they so choose to do.
All right, any additional information? Input? The one thing I do keep hearing over and over is these illegal taxi cabs. And I can say that I know Director Rooker and NDOT and Metropolitan Police Department are cracking down on that. All right, the next matter on our agenda is wrecking and towing services. Mr. Rooker?
Yes, sir. Pursuant to the law changing in July, the record companies have contacted us and requested a fee increase for the way that mail has to be delivered or notice has to be delivered to lien holders. And usually a bank, usually in California, usually somewhere that they have to send it. They used to send it by certified mail. Now it has to be sent FedEx, UPS, some source like that. So,
And is that because the law changed to where it has to be done overnight?
overnight, yes, sir.
Okay.
This has to be overnighted. So, it's considerable cost to the record companies. So I think they're here for the public hearing for us to change, or at least look at changing the rule of Section 326 that states it's $50. It's a max that they can charge. And some of the companies have submitted at least $75. Some of the companies have told us they would like to do it on a case-by-case basis. So if it's $150 to send something to somewhere, they'd like to be able to charge $150 for it. This is just a proposal that we put together after hearing from the industry members, and it's definitely up to the commission as to set what rate This is just a suggestion from us, from staff.
Mr. Martin, would you come around again, please?
You want to, Chair, you want to open?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to open the public hearing now. Mr. Martin, you've had quite a bit of time now to think about the question that was on my mind. Why is it costing over $100 to overnight a letter to somebody?
So they required that we use FedEx or UPS. We cannot use United States Postal Service anymore. So the terms of which.
When you say they, please tell me who they is.
State of Tennessee.
Okay,
the recent
thank
law
you.
change. So it's changed where before we would just send a certified letter. $10, didn't matter where it went, we got a signature return, and that met all the needs that the state had for us. Now, with FedEx, with FedEx, the company that we ended up going with, and we did get a little bit of discount by opening a commercial account with them, but still, say for instance, we send one to Virginia, it's $35.55. And then if it's to a PO, which most of your lien holders are gonna have a PO, they have to do an address correction because they will not send it to a PO. So then they charge us a fee of $22.50 to call the bank and say, what's your physical address? Where can we actually send this to? So then that's putting us behind on our timeline.
Who's charging you $22 to make a phone call?
FedEx.
FedEx is having to make the phone call?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so they're adding that fee to the 45, 35, whatever?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Then also on top of that fee, they're doing a $20 undeliverable fee. So if they do have a PO box that they have to deliver it to, they can't get a physical address after attempting to call. Not only do we pay the original fee for postage, we pay the fee for the address correction, which was not able to be done. So now they have to deliver it to the address that we provided. They can't get a signature for it, so it's undeliverable. So then there's an additional fee for us sending it back. That's the highest fee we've had to pay so far, I believe, is the $33.50. We have had quotes as high as $160 to California. So if we were to send one to California, it would be $160, and then it would possibly be the additional $40 with the address correction and the undeliverable added to it as well.
But that could be avoided by realizing that you cannot take it down to FedEx with a post office box. You gotta make a call to the bank and find out what their actual physical location is.
Yes, sir, but see, the issue we're running into also is we have to send it to wherever auto data tells us to. Whoever the state of Tennessee says, this is your owner, this is your lien holder, that's where we have to send it. You could physically come in with the title and say, no, this is my vehicle, I bought it last week, it's not owned by them anymore, but we still have to send it to where the state tells us to for our auctioning, so we auction the vehicle off so that we meet all the requirements by the state of Tennessee.
And this situation is arising where a vehicle is towed, the person that is registered is one individual, but you're having to send notice to the lien holder, which could be Ford Motor Company or some credit union or a bank that holds the title and the debt on the vehicle.
Correct. In some situations, we have 2 lien holders on the vehicle, so we're sending out 3 letters in total.
And this change happened because of the legislation that passed as part of the booting. It was part of it was affected there.
It was attached to that legislation. It was so I've read a little bit of the legislation, and it was sent in by Congressman Jack Johnson, I believe. And,
Senator Jack Johnson.
He added all that to the booting. So I feel like, I think some of the stuff was adding on, which this has nothing to do with y'all, but I feel like some of the stuff that was added to the booting had an adverse effect on all of us, where it wasn't meant to have that effect on us. It was meant to be proactive for the customer as far as the booting aspect, but it ended up affecting us in a way too, so.
And this is a question, not maybe just to you, but if anyone in the industry knows, will there be an effort to address this when the legislature reconvenes in January? I feel like that was something that, okay. Trying. There's no guarantee that it would be corrected, but it will be something that there will be legislation pursued, maybe by an association or something, so. Come on down.
And I know we've been in contact with Senator too. My wife has been kind of hitting this up, but she met with FedEx and get the rates and got us the account and everything. And She's been in correspondence with, one of his assistants and brought these, errors up on our behalf to them, so.
My name is Barry Woodward. I'm with Davidson. The thought behind the law was to protect the consumer. It's actually added more cost to the consumer and is actually hurting the consumer. By adding all these fees, you're not helping the situation.
Yeah, that's my point. Even if we increase it here and you get to bill it, it gets billed to the person whose vehicle was actually towed, if they come to pick their car back up.
Right, and if we
So
run.
their $200 towing bill plus $150 for mailing to the lien holder and any other, and then the storage fees are all added in, paid by the person whose vehicle was towed.
Right, and for us, our average is around 35% of vehicles are not picked up, so we're stuck with those fees.
Or you get to auction the vehicle.
Depending on what scrap's going, cars can actually be auctioned off for $200. It's rare that one goes, unless it's a nice vehicle. The average is probably around 500, 600.
And I would think the nice vehicles, people show up to.
Yeah, they get those.
They pay everything, yeah.
Yeah, those are retrieved.
I have a question for Metro Legal. Do we have any jurisdiction to allow for USPS delivery of, there's nothing we can do, we have to abide by the FedEx, UPS?
Right.
There's
It's
nothing we can do.
State law preempts our local laws.
Okay, so there's no, just asking the question, is there anything that can be done on that front?
Not at this moment, no.
Okay, thank you.
And unfortunately, right now, we're also running into the issue where FedEx, guess who they use to deliver to the post office? USPS. Guess who does not want USPS? State of Tennessee. So that puts us in limbo. It gets sent back. So now it's undeliverable. Well, there's another fee. And if you do put, it's, 123 Main Street is the post office, box 123, well, if they'll deliver it there, great. But if you're State of Tennessee or ADD, which is what we use to find out, like Kansas and stuff, where the vehicle needs to go to, if it says it gets delivered to 576, no, that does not count according to the state of Tennessee, because you use the address for the post office where, say, Ally, or Capital One, the main post office that they use for their P.O. box, you put that address in with the P.O. box number, so to go to that P.O. box at that post office, that does not count according to the state of Tennessee, because it says only post office box 123. You can't put the post office address because that's not the address that the state of Tennessee, state of Kansas, or whoever has. You have to send it to that address and that address only. And if it's husband and wife, you're getting 2 letters. If it's husband, wife, lien holder, 3 letters. Husband and wife, 2 lien holders, 4 letters. Even if the lien's already paid off, you still have to notify the lien holders until it's changed with the state that it's registered in.
Thank you so much for that. With respect to what we're looking at here, this is the lien holder processing fee increase, or I'm looking for clarification as to what, okay. And so this is part of the administrative costs now with doing this. So if there's a change, let's say there's success in January and that, well, it'll end up being March or April, where it changes back to where they allow the USPS again and your rates go back down to where they've been. Would you need the increase in the administrative fee if that were to happen?
The 75 and 50s is a kind of a median because some are in excess of $100, $150. So that kind of puts us in the median to where you're also having to look at, you have to have staff carry that to UPS, FedEx. and the time to sit there and wait for them to check every package in. So you're looking at, that kind of offsets it. It helps offset some of that cost, but it's not really covering all the costs it's associated with the processing.
Thank you.
If I can, in my eyes, I feel like it's two issues. One, it's been a couple years since we had a rate increase. So, that's one thing to look at. But then two, I feel like that the postage issue is kind of a separate thing because it is something new that's just brought to us and we're all kind of trying to figure out how we're going to deal with it and how to get the best rates and things. So that's why I feel like I hate to do this because I feel like I'm being counterproductive to the rate increase because we definitely need that. But I feel like it needs to be looked at in two different ways. One, the postage issue. One, the rate increase for our regular general business. I would like to see possibly on the postage, if we could just attach the price that we're paying for postage to the invoice. That way, if your car doesn't have a lien holder, you're just paying the regular fee. If your car has 5 lien holders, then you're paying for that, Unfortunately, it is a cost to the public, but it's also a cost to our company, and somebody somewhere has got to find a middle to where we can all be happy. I hate to increase the price to the customers, without having a need to, and I definitely feel this is a need to, so.
I have a question. The car is towed to your lot, and let's say it's a non-consent tow. And I come out that afternoon, because I come out that afternoon and I pay the fees and I pick it up. Have you sent the letter to the lien holder by then? I mean,
No.
is there a time frame under the statute now?
After 24 hours.
24 hours. So if I come and get it within 24 hours, this additional fee is not going to be tacked on there?
No. The only fee you'll have is your impound fee.
Right.
And the day of storage that is applied after 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And the second day of storage is not applied to after 26 hours.
Okay.
And one of the things also, I mentioned the ADD 123 is who we use to be able to contact Kansas and all that. Some of those fees are as cheap as $2 for Georgia. Tennessee is just over $5 per vehicle. And then you have some states that are $20+ to get that information. And with the influx of everybody suddenly wanting to move to Nashville over the last few years, we're seeing all states. 5-6 years ago, probably 20% was out of state. Now that's jumped up a lot. So we're processing a lot of out-of-state vehicles also. And that's
You're not
adding-
targeting those out-of-state vehicles, are you?
Only when they park where they're not supposed to.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, did you have another question?
I did.
Oh, hold on.
I got from you guys that we're kind of dealing with two different issues here, the postage and the towing fees, right? And you had a suggestion on the postage to attach that to the invoice. As someone who does a lot of work with administration and I'm paying my staff to do additional things that don't actually make us money, I would actually propose an additional 10% administration fee on top of that. What is your suggestion for the change to the towing fees? Did you all have a suggestion for that?
Yes, ma'am. Me personally, like I said, I would love to see both. And I feel like that, I guess my thing was and I don't want to put too much pressure on y'all, but I kind of want to feel like hopefully we could get some kind of progress today. So if it was a thing where we needed more discussion on the fees or y'all needed time to think about it or something, if it was possible to look at the adding the postage to it as a temporary thing until something's done on the rate increase, until, if y'all want to do any kind of studies on it or, anything of that nature to see if there was a need for it.
I mean, as someone who is day-to-day in my own industry, I like to ask the people who are day-to-day in their own industry, what would you suggest for this?
I would love to see the rate increase with the added postage.
To just adding the postage and not a base rate increase?
So I would like to see the rate increase for the towing, like.
Okay, to what?
I don't have the form in front of me. I believe it was,
It was from
300
It was
for
from
the tow.
$225 for accident tows to $300.
And that would kind of help cover costs of general business, like I said, it's been a few years since our rate increase. I provided some numbers earlier about the price increase for our trucks. Fuel's gone up, insurance has gone up, workman's comp insurance, all those different things combined in. So that's kind of like our general pot of where we need the rate increase. And then additional to that,
The postage.
increase.
I understand.
I would like to see both.
I understand. Well, just want to put some numbers around where you were hoping to see that. Do you recall, or can someone on the commission tell me when the last time we increased the towing fee?
2 years ago.
2 years ago? From,
August 25th, 2022.
what was it before 2022?
What were the fees prior to then? I'd have to pull up. I think there was a complete overhaul of all the fees.
I think it went from maybe around 200, 210 or something like that, to
It was-
225.
To 225?
It depend, at the time, there were zones.
Yeah.
There was the downtown loop outside of Briley, and all that was put together and made one flat fee. It didn't matter if you were on Briley, past Briley, inside the loop, downtown. It was two,
Flat
it went,
fee.
right.
Yeah.
It went 155, 165, 175.
Okay.
And we went to 225, flat, no matter where you were. Because with Martin's being downtown, they would work a wreck and they would only get paid 155.
Sure.
Where I'm in Madison, I'm outside the Briley Loop, same wreck, I'm getting 175.
Yep.
And it wasn't fair to him. And it wasn't fair to the companies that were downtown. So it just made one flat rate across the board, so that way you'd go to Metro Impound, well, you're here. No, I was here. And you would end up going back and forth over what the price was, and that killed all that. It just made it one price for the wreck, $225 across the board in Davidson County, flat. That
And you
includes,
saw that as a good improvement?
yes, that way there was no, it was, you know, for him to do the same job that I was doing in Madison, and, you know, even if mine was just pull up, load on the bed and go, where he had to spend 30 minutes working the wreck, pulling it around, he's putting in twice the work and getting paid less. So it just made it fair across the board for everybody.
Okay, I appreciate that. I had a van stolen last year and I had to pay to get it unimpounded and towed and the whole thing, so.
Did
I'm
you go to
sens-
Metro Impound?
Yeah. Insult to injury. But I can appreciate as a business owner that if you're having additional administrative costs and time, that should be accounted for. So thank you, gentlemen.
Director Rooker, what's on the agenda today for our consideration?
To listen to the companies and in talking to the companies, they suggested the kind of the medium, going from $50 to $75 that would get probably their most expensive and some that weren't quite 75. It was kind of a middle number for them that they kind of came up with. You could do it on a case-by-case basis. You could do.
But is what's on the agenda today consideration of the lien holder?
Yes, sir.
Processing fee and only that right now?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Only that right
okay.
now. Yes, sir.
And so the choices are set a flat maximum rate of $75 or to put in the rule that they can pass the cost for the mailing along to
Yes, sir.
the consumer, really?
Yes, sir. And the only thing with that is you're not setting a specific fee for that. And might have to ask legal if that's something we should do. We might need to just set a number.
If
that
we
they
set
can
a
charge.
number and it only costs $35 to mail it to a street address in Virginia, are they gonna charge the $75 or the $35?
Well, I think they would charge the 75 to recoup the ones that were 150 to mail out. So I think the industry, and they can speak to this better than I can. I think that was the number that they kind of gave us, that a $25 increase would cover the high ones. And it was kind of a middle number that they saw that it was all costing them collectively. Sure.
So unfortunately, I had not spoke with some of the other companies about about the rate increase before I spoke with Ricky about adding the postage to it. So we spoke and this kind of came up afterwards. Unfortunately, I was in Montana for a couple of weeks on family vacation, so all this kind of happened.
Doesn't sound unfortunate.
Unfortunately to the business, it was great for me, but unfortunately for business, I wasn't available, didn't have signal a lot of times. I got the email one day and then tried to make some phone calls and didn't have signal all day. And it took me like 2 days to be able to get back to where I could make a phone call to Nashville, like, hey, you know, what's going on? So all this kind of has happened real fast. And if we don't have any answers for you, you know, I'm happy to try to answer it for you at any other time. Just wanted to get in front of y'all today to get the conversation started so something could happen. So.
You've been very helpful, very enlightening. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Martin. So what's your recommendation, Mr. Rooker? I'm going to throw it in your lap this time.
Thank you, Chair. Our recommendation would be to, what are the industry standard would be, and that would be a $75. So that would be a $25 rate increase from $50.
So if we're looking at this lien holder processing fee, we would just take the in bold 50, turn it to 75. And there is an additional
25.
administrative fee for mailing it, which isn't covering all the mailings at this point, but that remains the same at this point.
Correct. Go ahead, TD.
And I believe they've requested $50 on the administrative fee, if that's correct.
It'd be 75 for the first letter and 50 each additional letter.
Okay.
Okay, so the 50 becomes 75, the 35 would become 50.
Come 50. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm willing to make a motion to that effect.
I second that.
Make the motion.
Oh, okay, yeah, so the motion is to increase the one-time administrative processing fee for lien holder processing to $75 from $50 for any car remaining in storage on a company lot for more than 24 hours, and to add an additional $50 administrative processing fee available for each additional notification sent to the owner or lien holder as required by law.
And just to clarify, that's going from 35 to 50, not an additional 50 on the 35.
Correct.
And I second that motion.
All right, there's a motion on the table to amend section 326 as has been described. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, now we move on to our ethics refresher course.
We will turn this section of the program over to Metro Legal.
So we think this might take about 30 minutes. Does everybody have time for that today? Or would you prefer that we defer it until September? Because we have these, the applicants waiting also.
Yeah, I have a hard stop at 3:30, I'm sorry.
Okay, and we do have three application reviews. So we can defer it and then maybe try to find an agenda that's the next couple of months is not so busy.
Yeah, rather than deferring it just to September, why don't you see if you find a month where it really fits? It may be September.
I would be curious too, could this be a work session outside of this hearing or a lunch and learn? I guess I think about some of the other types of things that I've gone through with Metro over the last 20 years. Like ethics presentations have been not in the middle of an official board meeting.
I actually would have to look into that because since I've been at Metro, we've only done them during the public meetings. So we can defer it. I can look into that option. And
I can tell you we have done it, we have done it many years ago in a unofficial setting. Or
Still needs to be open to the
Yeah,
public.
yeah.
But I think we, with the school board, we did this during a retreat or during a lunch meeting.
Sure.
That wasn't in the middle, because our agendas have been really full recently.
Correct.
And it's gonna be hard, when we have really pressing business, to fit in this is very important, but so we're ethical here.
Yes, I'm happy to do it in the way that the commission would prefer.
And I think if we can get a special meeting, and if Metro 3 would be willing to record that special hearing, I think you're fine. We'll have to get with them, and we'll try to coordinate all that with y'all. We'll try to do it before the September meeting if everybody is, got some room on their calendar. Yeah.
I'd be curious too if virtual is an option. So could you give us a Teams meeting, and can we have the class virtually? Can
Let
you
me look
that,
into it.
Please, thank you.
I will look into it.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
And I wouldn't mind getting the PowerPoint sent to us by email ahead of time.
It's in the.
Oh, it is. It's right here in front of my face, so. All right.
Maybe if we just pass the test?
All right. At this point, we are going to close the meeting.
Yes,
To
sir.
the public, right?
Yes, sir. The public meeting needs to
All
be
right.
closed.
The broadcast section of this meeting has concluded. The remaining portion of the meeting will not be broadcast because the commission will be considering confidential and protected information on driver applicants. Any questions about this should be directed to Director Rooker. All right, let's